Hey, Narrative Mindsetters, how's it going? I'm your host, GT, and welcome to the Narrative Mindset Podcast, where I narrate my mindset. This is your host, GT, and I'm here to serve my listeners. And what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about I guess, it's how bad I want to be understood, right? And how I want women and men to know women more, because a woman is always looking for something from a man that's all about her and doesn't involve a sexual interaction. And that's what I want to kind of explain to get it through to women mostly, but this is also something that men can take advice from, because the core of it applies to anybody. It's about it's about understanding love, right? Because I created a self work policy for myself, right? And it involved loving yourself, finding your contentment, finding your happiness, and creating a peaceful environment. And it started with finding a definition of love, because a lot of people don't have a definition of love. A lot of us, if you ask your average person what love means, they're going to give you some fantasy definition that they've heard from somewhere, and it's not going to lead anywhere. They're not going to be able to prove any definitive evidence that what they're saying is true, right? So I created my own, and I'm not the person who invented this, and I didn't look it up. I just sat down and thought about it, and what I did was I stripped away everything, and I was trying to figure out, okay, what does love mean, right? So what I ended up coming up with love is it's just stuff you just don't want to do. And it's as simple as that. Love is stuff that you don't want to do, stuff you know you need to do, that we all have a list of that you know you need to do, but you just don't want to do it. Love is the act of doing those things that you know you need to do, but you don't want to do. That's love, first of all. Being in love with yourself is making that decision of, I'm going to do something that I don't want to do, and I'm going to make it a priority. That's being in love with yourself. Now, you're attracted to being in love with yourself, and the reason it's being in love with yourself, because you like the person that you're becoming once you start to love yourself. See, a lot of people, they have this fantasy definition of love, and they're actually living their life off of it. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that for me, I obsess over everything. So I had to have a definition of love that was something that would answer itself if ever questioned. And my definition of love does answer it. It strips away everything that you can throw at it, and it basically says, it basically says, you say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to stop eating at McDonald's. But if you love yourself, you'll stop eating at McDonald's. Nothing against McDonald's, but if you love yourself, you'll stop eating at McDonald's, because you know that McDonald's is not good for you. You love yourself, and you want to be healthier. You love yourself, you want to be happier. You love yourself, you want to be in a more peaceful environment. You love yourself, you want to be content in life. You want to understand your contentment. So that's very important, and it's a good place to start with loving yourself. And you'll be surprised at how much of a better person you become once you love yourself. And then you move on to content, you move on to happiness, you move on to peace, and you create this environment where believe it or not, you're a different person because you're operating from a different spectrum. That's it for today's episode. I'm GT. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a comment. And if you like the podcast, follow so you can help this podcast grow. Have a good one.